Welcome to this channel. At the sum of 1,000 subscribers, I will post a series of special stories for you. Subscribe. I wasn't a morning person. My routine was simple: groan at the alarm, shuffle to the bathroom, and try to wake up with a shower that was either too cold or too hot. That day was no different, or so I thought. Steam from the shower clung to the mirror, and I was just about to dry off when I heard a strange noise. At first, I thought it was the pipes acting up again. My apartment was old, prone to creaks and groans that made it feel haunted, but this was different. The sound was more like a low hum, faint but steady, vibrating through the walls. It grew louder, impossible to ignore. I tightened the towel around my waist, peering around the bathroom door. Maybe I'd left the TV on? No, I hadn't even touched it today. I wandered out into my small living room, half expecting to find some appliance malfunctioning. That's when it happened. Right in the middle of my apartment, between the coffee table and my ratty old couch, two shimmering figures appeared out of thin air. They didn't walk in through a door. They didn't teleport like in a sci-fi movie. They simply materialized, the air around them bending and twisting like light through a prism. I froze. Heart pounding, I clutched my towel like it was a life raft. The figures were humanoid, almost too perfectly so, like sculptures crafted by someone obsessed with symmetry. Their skin was smooth, metallic silver, reflecting the light in my apartment like a living mirror. They were identical in every way, tall and slender, with large almond-shaped eyes that glowed faintly. Their faces were eerily beautiful but entirely expressionless. Was all I managed to say, standing there, towel barely hanging on, as these alien twins floated a few inches above the floor. The twins' heads tilted at the same time, their expressions unreadable, yet I could sense their confusion. They didn't speak, not at first. They just stared at me, their silvery eyes scanning me like some kind of malfunctioning surveillance system. I couldn't decide what was worse, being naked in front of them, or the fact that they were clearly just as confused by me as I was by them. One of them blinked, or at least, I think it blinked. It was hard to tell because their eyes were so alien, like molten silver, without pupils. The other one, however, took a step closer, hovering just above the carpet. Excuse me? I finally managed, my voice shaky. Who, or what are you? The two aliens exchanged a glance. At least, I assumed they did, because they moved in perfect synchronization, as if controlled by the same mind. Then, in a voice that sent shivers down my spine, they spoke. Not separately, but in unison. We are Nara and Vara. We did not intend to intrude upon your moment of vulnerability. Their voices were melodic, soft but powerful, echoing inside my head rather than my ears. It was like their words bypassed my ears altogether and went straight to my brain, leaving a strange, vibrating sensation behind. I stared at them, still clutching the towel for dear life. Vulnerable? Yeah, I'd say that's putting it mildly. Nara, or maybe Vara, I couldn't tell, extended a hand, as if to calm me. Our arrival here was unintended. We miscalculated our phase shift. This situation is an unfortunate result. Unfortunate? I'm standing here in nothing but a towel, and you just materialized in my living room. What kind of miscalculation dash? Before I could finish my sentence, Nara or Vara stepped forward, their hand glowing with a strange, soft light. We must rectify this. You were not meant to perceive us in this form. It will only cause further complications. Wait, what do you mean rectify? What kind of complications? I protested, stepping back. But it was too late. The glowing hand reached out toward me, and before I could react, a brilliant flash of light enveloped the room. It was like a bomb of pure energy had gone off, blinding me with its intensity. The light wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming, and I couldn't see anything but white. Everything around me seemed to warp and twist. My vision blurred, my mind felt heavy, and I lost all sense of where I was. It felt like falling through space and time, disoriented and powerless. And then, Just as quickly as it started, the light faded. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the floor, my towel still miraculously wrapped around my waist. My living room was exactly the same as before, down to the clutter on the coffee table, but the alien twins were gone. No more shimmering figures, no more strange hums. Just silence. Had I imagined the whole thing? For a second, I thought I had dreamed it all. But then the throbbing in my head reminded me otherwise. Something had definitely happened, something unnatural. I struggled to stand, but my body felt off different. I could feel everything. Every creak in the walls, the vibrations of traffic outside, the subtle hum of electricity in the air. And then, without warning, I heard it. Voices. Faint, distant whispers, but they were in my head. I froze. The voices weren't mine. They were thoughts, emotions, flickering across my mind like static on an old radio. I could feel them, hear them, even though no one else was around. What the hell? I stumbled toward the mirror on the wall, hoping that maybe I could shake this off, but as I stared at my reflection, I could feel it more intensely, the whispers growing louder. And then, just as I was beginning to freak out, they appeared again. The alien twins stood in my living room once more, materializing without so much as a ripple of warning. "You have been linked," Vara said, their voice calm but filled with urgency. "We did not mean for this to happen." "Linked?" I managed to ask, my voice shaky. "What does that mean?" Nara stepped forward, their luminous eyes reflecting my panicked expression. "Our presence in your vulnerable state has caused a psychic connection, a Xixian link. Your mind is now open to us, and our minds are open to you. We cannot undo it." I blinked, trying to process what they were saying. "So, you're telling me that because you saw me naked, we're telepathically connected?" They both nodded in perfect unison. "Great," I muttered, sinking onto the couch. "Just great." But before I could even wrap my head around this bizarre new reality, a wave of emotion hit me sharp and overwhelming, like a sudden burst of fear. It wasn't my fear, though. It was theirs. Something was wrong. I sat on the couch, trying to make sense of everything that had just happened. Alien twins. A psychic link. Voices in my head. It was like the universe had decided that my life was a joke, and I was the punchline. I stared at Nara and Vara, still standing in the middle of my living room, their silvery forms glowing faintly in the dim light. Their expressions, if you could even call them that, were blank, but I could feel the storm of emotions brewing beneath the surface. Thanks to this link they had unintentionally created, their thoughts were bleeding into mine, leaving me with a sense of unease that wasn't entirely my own. "What exactly did you do to me?" I asked, my voice unsteady. The whole situation was surreal, and I was trying to keep from spiraling into a full-blown panic attack. Nara and Vara exchanged a look again, perfectly synchronized, and then Vara stepped forward, her tone calm but urgent. "We are sorry for the disruption. The Xixian link is not something we intended to form. Our kind are careful with such connections. But seeing you in your natural form caused a breach. Your mind was left open, and we could not reverse it." "Okay," I said slowly, still processing. "But what does that mean? What exactly is this link?" Nara took over. "The Xixian link is a psychic bond, one that allows two or more minds to communicate telepathically. It's rare among our species, used only for the most intimate exchanges of knowledge. Your mind is now connected to ours. You will hear our thoughts, feel our emotions. We will hear yours." I stared at them, my heart racing. "So I'm basically stuck in a three-way telepathic conversation with you two? Forever?" "Not forever," Vara corrected. "But the link is difficult to sever. It could take time cycles of your Earth's solar rotation." "You mean years?" I groaned, putting my face in my hands. "Years of this?" As if sensing my growing frustration, I suddenly felt a wave of calm wash over me, soothing, like a warm breeze. It wasn't my own emotion. It was theirs. They were trying to calm me down, and, surprisingly, it worked. I took a deep breath, the panic receding enough for me to think clearly again. "Okay," I said, sitting up straight. "So, psychic link. Got it. But I still don't understand why this happened just because you saw me well, you know." The twins' glowing eyes flickered, and I could sense a kind of awkwardness from them, which was strange, considering they didn't seem like the type of beings to feel awkward about anything. Nara spoke carefully. "In your most vulnerable state, your mental barriers were lowered. We came into contact with you at that exact moment, and the connection was made. Basically, it's because you were naked," Vara added bluntly. I groaned. Of course. My luck. Just as I was about to ask more questions, another surge of emotion hit me. This time, it wasn't calm. It was fear. A sharp, cold fear that tightened my chest and made my pulse race. But it wasn't my fear. It was theirs. I shot up from the couch. "What's happening? Why are you afraid?" Nara and Vara's eyes widened, their silver skin flickering with subtle pulses of light. "They are coming," Nara whispered, their voice laced with panic. "Who's coming?" I demanded, a cold sweat breaking out across my skin. But before they could answer, a loud hum filled the room. The air itself seemed to thicken, growing dense with an energy I couldn't see but could definitely feel. It vibrated through my bones, making my skin crawl. Then, out of nowhere, the lights in my apartment began to flicker, dimming and brightening in a frantic, erratic rhythm. "We are being pursued," Vara said quickly, their voice rising with urgency. "There are others hunters who seek us. We did not expect them to find us so quickly." I blinked, trying to keep up. "Hunters? Like alien bounty hunters?" "Worse," Nara said, their glowing eyes darting toward the window. "They are part of the Zentari collective. They harvest knowledge and power by capturing beings like us. We escaped their hold, but they are relentless. They will not stop until they have us again." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I had already been dealing with the fact that I was psychically bonded to two alien beings, but now we were being hunted by a dangerous alien collective. This day couldn't possibly get any worse. "Can't you just, I don't know, disappear again?" I asked, my voice tinged with desperation. "It's not that simple," Vara said, glancing around the room. "Our face-shifting abilities are limited. We've already used too much energy. They will track us through the residual energy signatures we leave behind. We need time to recharge, but they are closing in." As if on cue, the humming intensified, and the walls of my apartment began to shimmer, faint at first, but growing stronger by the second. It was like reality itself was warping, bending around the energy that was building in the air. My instincts screamed at me to run, but there was nowhere to go. "Is there anything we can do?" I asked, feeling more helpless by the second. Nara's gaze locked onto mine, their silver eyes glowing brighter. "The Zixian link has given you access to our abilities, our knowledge. We must use this connection. Together, we can amplify our strength." "Amplify our strength? How?" I asked, my mind racing. "The link allows us to share our abilities with you," Vara explained quickly. "Telepathy is just one aspect. But there are other powers, latent abilities within you that can be unlocked. We need to tap into them." I was about to argue, to say I didn't have any abilities, latent or otherwise, but before I could get the words out, Nara raised their hand. I felt a sudden rush of energy, like a surge of electricity running through my veins. My vision blurred for a second, and then suddenly, I could see the room differently. Everything was sharper, clearer, like I was seeing beyond the physical. The shimmering walls weren't just an optical illusion. I could feel the energy in them, pulsing like a heartbeat. "We need to focus," Nara said, their voice calm but firm. The Zentari are powerful, but with our combined strength, we may be able to hold them off long enough to escape. Escape to where? I asked, still struggling to adjust to this new sensation flooding my senses. There is an ancient ship, Vara said, their eyes glowing brighter. It's hidden beneath your city. We detected it when we arrived. It has been dormant for centuries, but with the Zixian link, we believe we can activate it. A spaceship? Under my city? I repeated, blinking in disbelief. You're serious? Yes, they said in unison. But we must move quickly. The Zentari will be here any moment. The weight of the situation hit me like a ton of bricks. I was now psychically bonded to two alien fugitives, being hunted by a terrifying alien collective, and the only way out was to find an ancient spaceship buried beneath the city. I had no idea how I was supposed to help them, or how to control the strange new powers they claimed I had, but one thing was clear, I had no choice. All right, I said, swallowing the lump in my throat. Let's get out of here. Nara and Vara nodded, their faces as unreadable as ever, but I could sense their urgency, their fear. And somewhere deep inside, I could feel something else too, a flicker of hope. As we headed toward the window, the hum in the air grew louder, the walls warping and bending even more. I could feel the Zentari closing in. There wasn't much time. Without another word, Nara gestured toward the window, and with a flick of their hand, the glass shattered, falling away like dust. The cold night air rushed into the apartment, sending a chill down my spine. I looked down, realizing we were on the 5th floor. Don't worry, Vara said, sensing my hesitation. We will not let you fall. Before I could protest, they grabbed my arms and leaped out the window, pulling me with them. The wind whipped around us, but I didn't feel myself falling. Instead, a shimmering force field wrapped around us, holding us in place as we floated gently to the ground. As my feet touched the pavement, I glanced back up at my apartment, wondering if I'd ever see it again. But there was no time for second thoughts. The chase had begun. The moment my feet touched the cold pavement outside my apartment building, reality felt like it was fracturing. My life had gone from ordinary to incomprehensible in the span of a few hours. Nara and Vara, these alien twins with their shimmering silver skin, were now fugitives on the run, and I was stuck in the middle of it, bonded to them through a psychic link that had somehow made me a target too. Where are we going? I asked, my voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart and the whirling energy in the air. The street was eerily quiet, the usual noise of the city swallowed by an ominous tension. Vara turned toward me, their large, glowing eyes reflecting the dim streetlights. We must reach the ship, they said, their voice calm but filled with urgency. It is buried beneath your city, dormant for centuries. But now, with the Zixian link, we can activate it. It is our only chance. I glanced around the dark, empty street. How are we supposed to get to a buried spaceship? And how did it even end up under the city? Nara stepped closer, their hand lightly brushing my arm. The connection between us flared again, and for a brief moment, I saw flashes of images: alien worlds, ancient battles, a ship falling from the stars, crashing into the earth eons ago. It had been hidden ever since, waiting for someone to awaken it. It was abandoned during an ancient war, Nara explained, their voice soft, as though the memory pained them. We detected its energy signature when we first arrived here. The ship is beneath an old subway station, long forgotten by your kind. If we can reach it, we may be able to escape the Zentari. I swallowed hard, trying to process everything. I had no idea what the Zentari really were, but from the flashes of emotion I was picking up from Nara and Vara, they were bad news. Very bad news. What happens if we don't make it to the ship in time? I asked, a sinking feeling in my gut telling me I already knew the answer. Nara's eyes darkened. If they catch us, they will drain our knowledge, our life force, until there is nothing left. They will do the same to you. Great, I muttered under my breath, adrenaline flooding my system. No pressure. Without wasting any more time, we began running down the darkened streets, the wind whipping around us as we raced through the city. Every corner we turned, every shadow we passed, I expected to see the Zentari, these mysterious, terrifying beings emerging from the darkness, ready to hunt us down. But so far, the streets were empty. Too empty. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the rhythmic pounding of our footsteps on the pavement. My mind was a whirlwind of panic and confusion, and the psychic link I now shared with the twins was feeding me flashes of their emotions, waves of fear, urgency, and desperation that only amplified my own. As we rounded a corner, a strange humming filled the air, growing louder with each step. I felt the vibrations in my chest, a low, ominous pulse that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Nara and Vara skidded to a halt, their eyes scanning the sky. "They're here," Vara whispered, their voice tight with dread. I looked up, following their gaze, and my stomach dropped. High above us, dark shapes were descending from the sky, black, angular forms that looked like twisted shadows against the night. Their shapes were wrong, constantly shifting as though they were made of pure darkness, yet somehow solid. As they got closer, I could see more details. Their armor was sleek and alien, their faces sharp and angular, with glowing red eyes that seemed to pierce the very air. The Zentari. I breathed, my pulse spiking in terror. Without warning, one of the Zentari shot forward, diving through the air toward us. It moved impossibly fast, a blur of black and red, and before I could even react, Nara grabbed my arm and yanked me to the side just as a blast of energy scorched the ground where we'd been standing. "Move!" Nara shouted, their voice crackling with panic. We sprinted down the narrow alley, my heart thudding in my chest as I heard the whoosh of the Zentari closing in behind us. The air around us was thick with energy, crackling and warping with every step. I felt it surging through the psychic link, Nara and Vara's fear, their urgency, and now something else. Something darker. The Zentari were hunting us like prey. "What do we do?" I gasped, trying to keep up with the twins. I could feel their desperation through the link, but there was something else I couldn't quite put my finger on. Something they weren't telling me. "We have to fight." Vara called over her shoulder, their eyes flashing with determination. "Fight?" I yelled, nearly stumbling over a trash can as we dodged through the narrow alleyways. "How are we supposed to fight those things? I don't even know how to use this, link or whatever it is." Vara's voice was sharp as they glanced back at me. "You don't need to know how. The link is instinctual. You just need to focus. Let the connection guide you." I didn't have time to ask what that even meant. As we burst out of the alley and into a wider street, the Zentari were on us. One of them swooped down, its red eyes glowing brighter as it extended a sharp, claw-like appendage toward me. I froze, my mind screaming at me to move, but my body wouldn't respond. Then, out of nowhere, Nara threw themselves in front of me, raising a glowing hand. There was a pulse of energy, a blast of light that sent the Zentari reeling backward. Nara stumbled, but caught themselves quickly, their breathing ragged. "Now," they shouted, grabbing my arm and pulling me forward. "You can do this." I could feel the energy inside me, like a live wire buzzing under my skin, but I had no idea how to control it. The Zentari were regrouping, their angular forms shifting as they hovered above us, preparing for another attack. "Focus on the connection," Vara urged, their voice echoing inside my mind. "You have the power. You just need to let it flow through you." Easier said than done, I thought, but there was no time to hesitate. I could feel the Zentari closing in, their cold, predatory minds brushing against mine through the link. They were relentless, and they wouldn't stop until they had us. I took a deep breath, closing my eyes for a split second, and tried to focus on the strange energy coursing through my body. It felt alien, but also familiar, like it had always been there, just waiting for the right moment to awaken. And then it clicked. I opened my eyes just as another Zentari dove toward me. This time, instead of freezing in fear, I raised my hand, instinct guiding my movements. A burst of light shot from my palm, slamming into the Centauri with a force that surprised even me. The creature let out a high-pitched screech as it was flung backward, crashing into the side of a building before dissipating into a cloud of black smoke. Holy crap! I did that. Before I could process what had just happened, Nara and Vara were already moving again, pulling me toward an old, rusted gate at the end of the street. I stumbled after them, adrenaline pumping through my veins. Is that the entrance? I panted, glancing at the gate, which looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. Yes, Vara said quickly, reaching out to touch the gate. The ship is beneath the old subway tunnels. We must get inside before the Centauri recover. I glanced back at the sky. The remaining Centauri were circling overhead, their red eyes glowing with fury. We didn't have much time. Vara pressed a hand to the gate, and I felt a surge of energy ripple through the air. The rusted metal groaned and then slid open with a loud clang. Without waiting for an invitation, we rushed inside, descending down a narrow, crumbling stairwell that led into the depths of the abandoned subway tunnels. The air was thick with dust and the smell of damp concrete. The only light came from the faint glow emanating from Nara and Vara's bodies as they led the way deeper into the tunnel. My heart was still racing, and my hands were shaking from the rush of power I had just unleashed. I couldn't believe what I'd done. I had blasted an alien creature out of the sky with a flick of my hand. It was unreal. But there was no time to celebrate. The ship is just ahead, Nara said, their voice steady but urgent. Once inside, we can activate its systems and escape. I nodded, though I wasn't entirely sure what I was agreeing to. At this point, I was just trying to survive. We reached the end of the tunnel, and there, half buried beneath layers of debris and rusted metal, was the ship. It was massive, its sleek, alien design unlike anything I'd ever seen. Even in its dormant state, I could feel the power radiating from it, a low hum vibrating through the ground beneath my feet. This is it? I whispered, awestruck. Yes, Vara said, stepping forward. But we need you to help us activate it. Me? I asked, my voice shaky. How am I supposed to do that? Nara turned to me, their glowing eyes softening. The Zixian link has bonded you to us. You have access to the ship's systems through that connection. Place your hand on the control panel, and it will respond to you. I swallowed hard, nodding as I stepped up to the ship. My heart pounded in my chest as I reached out, my hand trembling slightly. As soon as my fingers touched the cold, metallic surface of the ship, I felt a surge of energy rush through me, stronger than before. My mind exploded with images, alien symbols, star maps, systems I couldn't even begin to understand. It was like the ship was speaking to me, guiding me. I took a deep breath and focused, letting the energy flow through me. The ship responded instantly. Lights flickered on, systems hummed to life, and the ground beneath us rumbled as the ship began to power up. We're doing it, Vara said, their voice filled with relief. But just as the ship's engines roared to life, the air around us crackled with dark energy. The Centauri had found us. And they weren't going to let us go without a fight. The rumble beneath my feet grew louder as the ancient alien ship powered up, sending vibrations through the floor of the old subway tunnel. Lights blinked on in a soft, pulsing rhythm, like a giant metallic beast waking from a deep sleep. I could feel the ship responding to me not just through my hand on the control panel, but through the Zixian link. The connection I shared with Nara and Vara pulsed with energy, surging through my body like a second heartbeat. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. But as the ship came to life, so did the danger. A dark crackle of energy rippled through the air, and the low hum that had filled the tunnel was replaced by a deafening roar. I turned toward the entrance, my stomach dropping. The Centauri had arrived. The dark, angular forms of the Centauri descended into the tunnel, their glowing red eyes fixed on us. They moved with an unnatural fluidity, their bodies constantly shifting and warping like living shadows. As they advanced, the air around them warped, crackling with malevolent energy. I could feel their hunger, their cold, predatory minds brushing against mine through the link. They wanted Nara and Vara. They wanted the ship. And they were willing to destroy anything that got in their way. They're here. I shouted, my heart pounding in my chest. Nara and Vara turned to face the Zentari, their expressions unreadable, but I could feel their fear through the bond. It hit me like a wave, cold and paralyzing. For a moment, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The Zentari were unlike any enemy I could have imagined, alien, relentless, and powerful beyond comprehension. But then, through the haze of panic, I felt something else, something stronger. It was coming from Nara and Vara. A pulse of resolve, of determination. They weren't giving up. And neither was I. You need to focus. Vara shouted over the roar of the ship and the advancing Zentari. The link will help us. Use it. I don't know how. I yelled back, my voice rising in panic. The energy inside me was building, but I didn't know how to control it. I had already blasted one Zentari in the street, but that had been pure instinct. Now, faced with an entire swarm of them, I felt completely out of my depth. Nara stepped closer, their eyes glowing with intensity. Trust the connection. Let it guide you. I swallowed hard, nodding. Trust the connection. Right. Easier said than done. But there was no other option. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the sound of the Zentari approaching, the crackling energy that filled the tunnel, and the rising panic in my chest. I focused on the link, the strange bond that now connected me to these alien twins. It was still there, humming beneath the surface of my mind, like a hidden current of power. Slowly, I let myself sink into the connection. And then, it happened. The energy surged through me like a tidal wave, flooding my senses. I could feel everything, the ship's systems, the pulsing energy of the Zentari, the fear and determination coursing through Nara and Vara. But more than that, I could feel the power within myself. It was like a door had been unlocked, a part of me that I hadn't known existed suddenly flung open. The Zixian link wasn't just a telepathic connection. It was a conduit, a way for me to tap into an ancient, forgotten power. When I opened my eyes, everything looked different. The tunnel, the ship, the Zentari, it all seemed sharper, more vivid. I could see the energy fields surrounding the Zentari, the dark, twisted patterns that made up their alien forms. I could see the glowing lines of power running through the ship, connecting every system, every control. And I could feel the power coursing through my own body, ready to be unleashed. But it was too late. The ship lifted off the ground, rising into the air with a deafening roar. The Zentari clawed at the hull, their energy crackling against the ship's shields, but they couldn't stop it. We were leaving, and they couldn't follow. As the ship ascended, I collapsed into one of the control chairs, my body shaking with exhaustion. I could still feel the Zixian link pulsing inside me, but the intensity was fading, leaving behind a dull ache. I looked over at Nara and Vara, who were both watching me with a mixture of relief and awe. "You did it," Nara said softly, their voice filled with gratitude. I nodded, trying to catch my breath. "We did it." The ship burst through the tunnel, smashing through the layers of earth and concrete that had buried it for centuries. For a moment, everything was chaos, the ship's hull shaking as we broke through to the surface, the lights flickering as the systems adjusted to the sudden change. And then, we were free. The ship soared into the night sky, leaving the city far behind. I watched through the viewport as the earth grew smaller, the lights of the city fading into the distance. The Zentari had been left behind, unable to follow us into the stars. We had escaped. But as I sat there, staring out into the vastness of space, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. The Zentari wouldn't give up so easily. And now, with the Zixian link still pulsing inside me, I was a part of this whether I liked it or not. Nara and Vara stood beside me, their luminous eyes reflecting the stars outside. I could feel their gratitude, their relief, but also their uncertainty. The bond we now shared was more than just a link. It was a responsibility, a connection to something far greater than any of us could have imagined. What now? I asked, my voice quiet as I looked up at them. Vara smiled faintly, their silver skin shimmering in the soft light. Now, we find a way to sever the link. And along the way, we might just change the fate of more than one world. I let out a breath, staring out into the endless expanse of space. Something told me this was just the beginning of a much larger adventure. They're coming, Nara shouted, pointing toward the Zentari, who were now advancing with terrifying speed. Their red eyes glowed with a hungry light as they closed in, their twisted forms shifting and warping with every step. But this time, I wasn't frozen in fear. This time, I was ready. I raised my hand, instinct guiding my movements. The energy that had been building inside me exploded outward, a brilliant burst of light that shot toward the Zentari like a bolt of lightning. It struck the first of the creatures, sending it screeching backward in a cloud of black smoke. Another Zentari lunged toward us, but I was faster. With a flick of my wrist, I sent another pulse of energy crashing into it, knocking it to the ground. The ship's systems flared to life around us, its hum growing louder as the engines powered up. I could feel the ship responding to my actions, the energy coursing through it mirroring the power inside me. The connection between me, Nara, Vara, and the ship was stronger than ever now, an unbreakable bond forged in the heat of battle. "Keep going," Vara shouted, their voice filled with urgency. "We need more time." The Zentari were relentless. For every one I knocked down, two more seemed to take its place. Their red eyes burned with fury, their dark forms twisting and morphing as they lunged toward us. But I wasn't giving up. The power inside me was growing, strengthening with each attack, each pulse of energy. I could feel it building, like a storm ready to break. "Now," Nara shouted, pointing toward the control panel of the ship. "Activate the final sequence. We need to leave now." I nodded, rushing toward the ship's control panel. My hand hovered over it for a moment, and then I slammed it down, letting the energy from the Zixian link flow through me and into the ship. The ship roared to life. The floor beneath us trembled as the engines powered up to full strength, the entire vessel shaking as it prepared to take off. The Zentari let out a high-pitched screech, their red eyes flashing with fury as they realized what was happening. They surged forward, their dark forms closing in on us with terrifying speed.